So we just watched the Black America Since MLK Part 3, and it kind of starts in the 70s, 80s era, and well, more in the 80s actually. And there was sort of this split between, poor parts of the Black America, and then there were also a lot of opportunities for like corporate America, and the black community started, it almost sort of divided, it seems. There was a lot of black people doing really well, and then there was a lot of large sections of the black community that was still struggling from, the civil rights era and all of the history that has led up to that point. And then as it goes on, then, the poorer areas sort of become like, there's a lot of, it's weird because like they mention the media and how its effect, how the black community was portrayed, and crack became a huge deal, and it was a huge problem, and it's pretty crazy to think that like a substance abuse problem and an addiction problem was starting to be portrayed in the media, and it was basically like black people were associated with crack and crime, and then it was like that was just what the only thing that they were being represented as. And it's like you fast forward to today and you look at all the social media and you look at how easy people are manipulated with just being inundated with different information. It really puts a different spin on, wow, I think a lot of this internalized programming has come from like media and how people were portrayed, and that might not have even been the case. I mean, like, sure, that was like somewhat the case, but at what point can the media really turn something into something it's not, or something that it is, but like way worse, and implant these like views into people, so that image started to be circulated, and I thought it was really interesting that the black communities actually, they would walk around and they would paint red paint on stores and crack houses and places that sold crack, because they were saying like they were asking out for like someone to help with this problem. But the only thing, that the solution that seemed to gel was just send in cops and arrest everyone, and which is insanity. Like this is addiction is not a criminal thing. It's a tough, like I was an alcoholic for like 7 years. Like it's tough. It's a crazy, like I just can't even imagine, like, having been there and understanding addiction. I can't imagine like criminalizing people for addiction. And it's just many of these layers just layered on top of each other. And then when Bill Clinton took over, so there was this sort of, eventually there was this sort of rise of black conservatism, which, where certain black people felt that like programs like affirmative action and stuff were too much of handouts. But see, the problem is that there was still this large section that was the poor section of the black community that still hadn't really benefited from these problems. But then you have this Supreme Court justice, I think, or a justice of some kind. I might be screwing up, but Clarence Thomas, he ran for one of the judges, and is interesting because there was also Anita Hill accused him of sexual assault. And you see these things play out today with like Brett Kavanaugh and things like these seem to be loops that play out over and over again. And then Clarence Thomas said that he was being lynched because of these allegations against him, and then that rallied the black community behind him, and then he ended up getting the position. And then after he got in, he just kept rolling back social programs for the black community. And so now we still have these poorer communities that still haven't really benefited from any of these programs, but then everybody seemed to think that they had, and now they pulled them away. And then so I think, again, it's like this issue, it always, after all the talks I've had and everything, it always seems to come back to like a class issue. Like I think the class and wealth inequality is really a driving force in perpetuating of racism, because it's like we're past, well, I'm not even gonna say that. Like there's definitely racism is alive and well, looking at the overview, but I think now it's morphing into a class issue because of the previous history. And I think there needs to be more done for the poorer communities to help lift them up and actually make things equal. And these are my thoughts as I watch and I research and I listen. So, I'm not saying I'm right or anything. I'm just trying to give you guys my view at this point in time, because maybe it'll change. I don't know. That's why I'm trying to absorb as much Black history and talk to as many Black people as I can, because I want to understand this issue. And I think we should all understand this issue, because it is a huge issue, and it's something that we're all a part of in some form or another, because we have a voice and we have the ability to stand up and say things and help people learn and help people understand. And, these are our fellow human beings, and we should all be concerned that everybody's not getting a fair shake and a fair chance. And, when Bill Clinton came in, he pulled a lot of Black people in his cabinet. He got a lot of Black people high positions of power, but he also signed this horrible crime bill, and incarceration just started skyrocketing under Bill Clinton. And he's actually since apologized for that. But you look at all these issues and you follow the history of it, and it's like one part of the, the civil rights era would fix one problem, but then there was another problem that was huge and never addressed. And then as the progress that was achieved from overcoming one problem is pulled back because another problem with racism and race hadn't been solved. So it's this ever shifting progress, but still getting the rug yanked out from under them, because it's there's too many problems that actually haven't been addressed yet. And I think that's kind of that's my overview for part 3. Just some thoughts that I had after watching that one. But I highly recommend it. Black America After MLK Part 3. It's a PBS documentary, and I highly recommend. If you want to understand what's happening today, start learning Black history, because I feel this situation that is so confusing and so complicated, I'm starting to see it for what it is, and I'm starting to see where the problems lie, and that's what we need to be doing. We need to be cutting through all of what happened, sifting through it, being honest, and listening and understanding where these problems developed and what has been fixed and what hasn't. So, Black America Since MLK. It's a 4-part series, and tomorrow we'll watch part 4. So.